All right, everybody, welcome back to the I Believe podcast. I'm Danae, and I'm joined with my co-host Megan, and we have Kristen from the KMac Fights Back team, and she is, guys, she's famous in the Steps for Sight community. I'm not even joking. So, Kristen, when you were first diagnosed with ocular melanoma, let's just get into that part of your story. What were you feeling, and how has that moment of being diagnosed shaped the advocate that you are today?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for having me. So I was diagnosed back in 2021. There wasn't much out there on the internet about eye cancer. So my first feelings were fear and confusion and just a lot of questions about what was coming next. So the year of 2021, I was diagnosed in January. Started with a lot of just surgeries, different things to just do first, and then I found community after that. I started connecting with a Cure Insight that fall, and then watched their I Believe conference and remotely from COVID times, and we all were remote that year. But then they were hinting at this big fundraiser coming up in January of 2022, Steps for Sight, the first annual. And so I kind of got plugged in that way. I started, just with my own diagnosis and asking questions. And then I got this opportunity to give back to this community that I was a part of. I saw such a need for fundraising for a cure of a super rare cancer that had no cure. And a need for visibility and, social media presence of a call to action and to join this walk with us. It was I was looking at a long diagnosis, a long prognosis with this cancer, even being no evidence of disease at the time. I was just looking ahead at, years to come with or without treatment, and I knew that I needed a team behind me.
Kristen, your team, KMac Fights Back, continues to be the largest and strongest fundraiser. What does that support mean to you personally?
I have a really huge team behind me for KMac Fights Back each January, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that it consists not only of family members, but friends and coworkers and people from all walks of life, from in-state, out-of-state, people who just want to join and be a part of this fundraising annual tradition. And while the growth in the numbers we've been able to raise towards this each year have grown, and I'm so blessed to see that, I've seen, multiple teams come up underneath each year and fight for those spots. And that's really awesome to see, I think as we, continue Steps for Sight, it's great to see other people challenge their family members, their coworkers, their friends and family from in-state and out-of-state to join this virtual call to action. It doesn't have to be a walk that everyone comes in person for, but it's a walk that we do throughout the month to honor those in the community, to honor people like me with this disease, and just kind of acknowledge the year that we maybe have had the past year and the challenges that has brought, and celebrate the victories along the way that brought us to another new year and another reason to fight again.
Oh my goodness, Kristen, I love that. I feel like I have watched you participate just on with Instagram and in the Steps for Sight, the Charity Footprints app, where we have the scrapbook and the pictures that you guys share. And your team is probably one of the most active teams in terms of kind of the scrapbook aspect, which is, if you think of it as a news feed for the Steps for Sight challenge, those of you guys listening. It's a place where you can upload photos. You can just snap a picture of where you're taking your walk. We see pictures of people doing a walk outside. Some people take their dogs for a walk. Some people are running in the snow and they're actually running because they're enjoying the running part. But what have you noticed and been kind of the most excited for each year as you've done the Steps for Sight kind of initiative alongside your team? And what do you wish that you could see some more of, from other people participating this year?
Yeah, thank you. I really think the social participation is huge. It's really cool to see not only my own team members posting photos where they are, whether that's in the snow or on the treadmill, but just taking that time to be I'm here, I'm walking, but also to see, the other teams as well. I get to see people walking in Florida and in Arizona. And last year I was posting on my honeymoon that I was walking. And so it's fun to, just kind of acknowledge, it doesn't matter where you are, like we're moving today and we're moving towards this number of 7,000 steps each day in honor of the 7,000 people diagnosed each year with ocular melanoma. And honestly, it's such a great call to action, because not only is it a good number to reach for in our own daily lives, but it's the start of a new year. A lot of people already have these fitness goals, and it's attainable. It's a number that a lot of people feel like that they can start and then sometimes outperform and get their own satisfaction from that too. And so I get excited to see, the leaderboard and people on my own team race each other for their own top spots. That's always fun to kind of make it your own.
One of the things that you have mentioned in the past and that I've seen you do personally is that you actually have like put a little personalized bio in your Steps for Sight page, like that you're sending out to friends and family. Why do you feel like that, like personalized story, and for patients, patients or family members of patients, why do you think it's so important for them to add that personalized aspect to kind of why they're doing Steps for Sight?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of summarize where you're at in your journey. Kind of adding a bio to your own page helps other patients kind of see, currently I'm working on my metastatic journey. I'm in a trial is actually where I am right now in my journey. But then a lot of times to people I don't see as often during the year, it's a good opportunity to give an annual report and a summary of maybe what the past year has looked like and where you're going this year. A lot of times ocular melanoma patients, we might like physically present just kind of like your everyday person, and people don't get to see the battles that you struggle with underneath, or whether that be mental or physical, and just kind of those the realness of the disease. Like even if you're at a stable part of your journey, it's still very much a journey to you. And so I think it is important to tell others where you're at in this space, and it gives myself a good reminder to reflect back on how far I've come over a year and look back on past years too, to be like, okay, that's where we were then and here we are now, and this is our goals for moving forward into 2026.
Aura Biosciences is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on developing precision therapies for solid tumors that aim to preserve organ function. Our lead candidate, Belsar, is currently in late-stage development for primary choroidal melanoma and in early-stage development in other ocular oncology indications and bladder cancer. Our mission is to grow as an innovative global oncology company that positively transforms the lives of patients. For more information, please visit us at aurabiosciences.com.
So for patients and families who feel isolated after diagnosis, what would you want them to know about this community?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that there is a strong community presence for ocular melanoma friends and family here. At A Cure in Sight, there are patients who meet every Tuesday night over Zoom, and we connect and we are able to talk through where we're at in each stage. But it's also important for people to see others gather teams, gather support, fundraise for a cure, and see so much movement towards that direction for a rare cancer that has such a small platform in the cancer community. It's really important for people who maybe feel small to start somewhere and then watch that growth. For me, my first year with Steps for Sight, I wasn't sure how I felt about asking for money, and that's kind of how it felt at first for fundraising. It was like, I don't know that, after the holidays, how that feels about asking for money, but it's really fundraising for a cure. And then I just saw it grow and exponentially from there. It's not, people wanted something to be a part of with me. And while I was feeling fine financially in those early years, people wanted to still give towards something. They still wanted to give back and show their support in that way. And so from what I thought was just going to be immediate family members, quickly grew to friends, family, and coworkers from there. And I was just so touched to see so many people wanted to put in the donation money to be a part of the team, or put in their time to walk with me each day. And that support alone can go such a long way.
I think that's so true, because I think people really do want to help and they want to do something, but they find themselves in that position where they're like, I just don't know what to do, and they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing and do the wrong thing. So I think giving them something tangible, you can do this. This is what I want. This is what I need. You're giving them that opportunity to support you without them having to figure out what to do on their own. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's really been unique for Steps for Sight the last few years, because the first year was 2022. So this is 23, 24, 25. This will be our 5th year doing Steps for Sight, if I'm doing the math correctly.
Yes, 5th year. Yes.
Yeah, 5th year, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, like looking back just from a diagnosis perspective. I know Kristen and I, you and I were diagnosed pretty close together in like I was 2021, you were 2022. So like to be at that milestone of like, okay, like we are 5+ years into our diagnosis. That's huge. And I love what you said about kind of looking back and using Steps for Sight as a kind of a way to gauge like, okay, I came this far last year and now we're starting the year strong. Like we're starting the year fresh. But I think that one of the other really unique things about Steps for Sight has been the opportunity for patients to see the real-time impact that their fundraising efforts have. So, Kristen, you have been doing Steps for Sight. This will be your 5th year participating, and we are so glad to have you back with KMac Fights Back. And we're so glad to have someone who's such a strong advocate in the community for the fundraising that we do with Steps for Sight. What have you noticed over the last 5 years about just the impact, like the real world impact that this fundraiser every year has had on the ocular melanoma community and the research, the support that patients receive?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have definitely seen just so much growth from Ocular Sight alone over the last 5 years. I was able, when I had just started, I was telling people, this is where I'm getting, my information every Tuesday night. I'm doing these patient calls and everyone's telling me, these are the next steps that you might need to consider. And it was very clear that Ocular Sight had their head in the game. They knew where the research was going. They knew who the pharma people were to talk to. And then out of that became, this podcast, that this podcast had really grown in popularity and information, and the doctors that you guys have been able to have on this. You guys have been able to do walks nationwide throughout the year. And then this year alone, I've seen so much research movement come out, and a lot of excitement with the patient registry and how that's going to be making waves in, research and data alone. And it's very exciting to see people are now able to kind of align their doctor's appointments and their biopsies with tissue sample donations. And so these are real things that are going to point towards how we find a cure for ocular melanoma in the future. And so these dollars that we're raising are really making a huge impact.
Castle Biosciences is a proud sponsor of this I Believe podcast. Castle's innovative uveal melanoma tests provide valuable information about the risk of your eye cancer spreading to help you and your healthcare team individualize the management of your disease. To learn more, visit castlebiosciences.com.
So, Kristen, looking ahead to Steps for Sight this year, what is your goal for KMac Fights Back and for Steps for Sight in general, and what do you want to let everybody know?
So going into our 5th annual Steps for Sight fundraiser, I'm really excited to write my annual email to my team, kind of let them know where I'm at in my journey, have that call for us to come together again this year and fundraise for a cure. I challenge everybody to join and, feel free to join KMac Fights Back, but also look at who else is joining. Maybe learn about some of the other patients who are also fighting this fight with me. I'd love to see, the competition, not only on the fundraising dollar side of things, but on the steps itself. It's so fun to see people chase each other for those top spots and, interact with the scrapbook and, post some social media posts and share that this fundraiser is going on. And not only for my team, but for others. And I think that it goes really far when it's not even people that I know from my own circle, but they're sharing it with their neighbors and they're inviting them to walk with them. And I think it starts small and it grows from there. And so that's what I'm excited to see is the things I couldn't have planned for this year and the people who I don't even know who are involved coming together for this year.
So you send an email out kind of prefacing what's coming. What do you say in your email? If somebody else wants to get a team together and they're like, ooh, that's a great idea, how would they go about putting their email together? What should they include?
I would say, for me, when I write my email to my team, well, number one, it can start like small. You can kind of do your own quick little social posts of like, hey, I'm summarizing my ocular melanoma journey from this past year. If you would like to receive this email and learn some information about Steps for Sight, which I will be doing in January, please drop your email below and you'll be part of that email list. But for my own email that I type up and send to my team, it's just really summarizing, maybe the different treatments I've had over the year. For me, I had 2 Hepzados, 3 chemoembolizations, and now I'm starting a drug trial. And so it's just kind of like a reminder about some of those things that we've encountered over this year. And, it is, you learn to use a lot of medical jargon. And so it's nice to kind of have that wrap up and reminder of, these sound similar, but they're different. And this is where it's leading to now and what I'm looking forward to for next year and where things are headed. For patients who also want to kind of use that as a summary, it can be as small as, I did my scans in May and again in November, and things are stable, and I'm excited to, keep up with the patient community with the Curing Site and see what next year brings. I'll have scans again next May or however that looks, and just kind of putting those pointers out there for people who might feel like maybe even like their own diagnosis has kind of made it to the background. It's like, this is a real journey for me. This is what it looked like last year, and this is what it'll look like for next year.
Sounds like a lot of the impact from this email that you send out has come from, creating a personal connection with your community and just inviting them to be part of the journey. I know it can be really vulnerable as a cancer patient to put yourself out there and to tell people like what's going on, whether it's that you lost your eye because of enucleation or that you just have radiation damage. Maybe you look totally normal on the outside and nothing really has changed, but you just feel all of these changes. If you guys are listening, I hope Kristen's story just illustrates just how impactful it is to bring your community alongside with you. And it doesn't have to mean that they get all of the sticky details, so to speak, from, every single doctor's appointment, every single harrowing, hard thing that happened this year. It just means that they're included. And I think that sometimes for the people who are watching, right, those watchers, they know that they want to support, right? They want to support. It's kind of like what Megan said before. They want to offer their support. They want to offer encouragement. And sometimes they don't really know how to do that. And on the flip side, if we as patients are keeping things so private that nobody even knows when you're going through cancer, how can we expect someone to rally, right? So I think that putting yourself out there, just being a little bit vulnerable and just letting people know where you're at, how far you've come, and just celebrating that and inviting them to celebrate that with you in the new year is huge.
And also, I know it's always hard to ask for help and, especially financially and donations, but also remember that a lot of people do like to do charitable giving every year for their own tax benefits. And so if somebody's already looking for somewhere to put their money and then their friend pops up with an opportunity like this, they might be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed. I need to give to a charity this year for my tax benefit. And, I just want to. I'm going to go with the Curing Site this year because it popped up and I was invited to. So don't assume that you are putting people out by asking. You might actually be doing them a favor.
I've noticed that people are just so generous and just, it doesn't matter, if you have a set goal in mind, let's call it 10,000. I think people just want to give to their own generosity and what they, they want to give towards the cure. And so that's been the cool thing to see about Steps for Sight is that we're not asking for a set dollar amount, we're asking for you to just join us. And so to see each year people join and hit some of these crazy goals is awesome. It's something that I'm proud to be a part of. And then also just excited to share with other people. I love to do weekly updates too, to kind of show people who are walking with us that impact. And anyone who joins Steps for Sight, you can follow along in the app Charity Footprints to see how we are doing each day, each week. And I know Curing Site sets up an overall goal as well to see if we can hit some of these big numbers. So it's really exciting to be a part of, to see the numbers go up each week, each day, and see everyone walk 7,000 steps and make goals for that landmark as well.
Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about Steps for Sight and your journey with the KMac Fights Back team. We're so stoked to see you guys just like crushing it on the leaderboard again. And also, like, let's just put the challenge out there. There might be somebody who's up and coming, and they might just totally beat you guys out of that top #1 spot. So if that happens, like, I mean, I love that you're such a good sport about it. And yes, like, I know, I would love it. Watch out for Kristen. Watch out for KMac. We look forward to seeing you participating in Steps for Sight again this year. So thanks, Kristen. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for having me.
How can you sign up for Steps for Sight?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We will post the link for registration today. Registration opens today. It's December 21st. So you can register now. It does not start until January 1st, and it runs through the entire month till January 31st. So we have all January to walk and raise money, and you can sign up starting today. You can start sending out your email, recruiting your friends, letting everybody know, and get everybody ready so that January 1st, everyone is ready to go.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just pretend I'm listening, and I am listening on January 30th. Is it too late for me to join?
No, it's never too late to join. Even if you just join for the last day, that's totally fine. If you sign up and you have a friend that comes to you and is like, oh man, I missed your post. It's already the 20th. The month's almost over. I'm so sorry. Tell them sign up anyway. It does not matter. We're happy to have you.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, even if you think about it, like if you have 10 people who sign up the last day of January and they all walk 7,000 steps at least on that next day, that's 70,000 extra steps that go toward the total of how many steps did we walk toward ocular or for ocular melanoma this year. No impact is too small. So keep that in mind, you guys. Like, it is never too late to join for Steps for Sight. And if you have had the opportunity to connect with ocular melanoma patients, maybe start a team together. Bring your communities together as like, the Arizona OMIs group or something like to that effect. But also, like, if you're part of any of the 5Ks that we have, the Looking for a Cure 5Ks, send out an email to all of your team members who came and walked locally. Send out an email to any of those sponsors that you helped find for us, and just make sure that they know that they can participate in this. Because like, there's no reason we wouldn't want to walk twice. And like, what if instead of walking just for the one day, like we're walking every day for a month? How much more impact is that going to have on our health, on our mental health? That's a huge thing for January as well. I just think the ripple effect of all of us joining together and just showing that we're on the same team, showing up together as a community online is huge.
I agree. And we're going to have to walk off all these holiday desserts we're about to eat. So everybody, you can have your Christmas cookies with guilt-free because you're going to do Steps for Sight and you're going to walk all of that off.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess last question before we close out. What if I'm somebody who just physically, I can't walk right now?
Yes, if you are having mobility issues, there are other activities you could do. This is all about community and coming together, and we want everyone to be involved. So there is something for everybody with Steps for Sight.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple things you guys need to know. You need to make sure that you sign up with a link today, ideally, and then start sending the word out to your community, your friends and family, and download the Charity Footprints app. Make sure that you are aware of how it works. It's pretty simple and user-friendly, but it's just going to pull up. It's going to pull up an app, and it'll have a leaderboard at the bottom, and it'll have an area that you can go in and you can log your activities. And you'll be able to just go in and manually add an activity. You can also just link a smartwatch. Whatever it's tracking on your steps every day, just from everyday movement, will automatically load into the app. So that makes it super easy. But I would encourage you guys to go ahead and download the app today immediately after registering, just so that you can get familiar with it and get excited because we have weekly prizes for participants. So Megan, how are the weekly prizes going to work, or do the people need to stay tuned?
So we'll be awarding weekly prizes for the top activity points and top funds raised. So every step and every share counts.
It'll be so exciting. All right, so we already know KMac Fights Back is the team to beat, you guys. So spread the word. Let's get out there and let's just make sure that we can make a difference, one step at a time, one team at a time, and one patient at a time. If you guys want to sign up, make sure head to the link in the show notes or in the description below this video. You can sign up, you can build your team, donate today, and just walk with us starting January 1st, 2026 toward a cure for ocular melanoma. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.